where I kind of say, when it comes to answering questions or reaching out, the worst that someone's going to say to you is no. And yeah, I smile when I say it, because that shouldn't upset you. Is that not an answer? So then you can go and ask someone else. So yeah, it's just a bit of a mindset thing. I'd say, like, get into the habit of just asking questions, and don't let no be a negative factor to it. Not everyone's got that mindset, but it's a tip.
No, it's so true. And like, sometimes it's just like being okay with like you said, like you might get a no and it might just not be for you then and there. Hello everyone, hope you're doing well, hope you're looking after yourselves. Welcome to another episode of The Student Guide, where we dive into incredible conversations with incredible individuals and we share their incredible stories. We've had amazing people, trailblazers in the industry, people talking about sustainability, community engagement, essentially changing the lives of young people and, spotlighting incredible services. And we have another amazing guest speaker here for you today. But as you all are aware of, if you're not already, I don't like doing introductions. I think it's good for us to hear from these amazing people because they're doing incredible work and we're hearing it straight from them. So instead, I will hand over to our guest speaker for today. Aaliyah, it's great to have you on the podcast. Could we know a bit more about you and what you do?
Hi everyone, my name's Aaliyah. So I'm from East London in Hackney, and I'm a co-founder of a youth engagement and social enterprise called Dipton Creative Engagement. We've acronymed it to DICIC. And I'm very passionate about supporting young individuals and also working with other organisations to think about progressing young individuals onto their next steps, also supporting with next steps in regards to goals, pathways, and I'm also very passionate about mental health.
Perfect, thank you very much. We're going to dive straight in with our first segment, which is the 44 question segment, which is Amanda, the founder of 44 Words. She has reviewed your bio that you sent us, and she has come up with a question that she would like to ask you and to learn a bit more about you. So if you were to write an essay on the current state of creativity, what would be the first line?
That's a good question. Bringing it all together, or even... I know there's a service called Centrepoint, but not to reference them, but something around Centrepoint. Because I feel like there's a lot of amazing opportunities, there's a lot of amazing services, there's even apps. But it's like, how do you bring it all together? How do you come to the Centrepoint? And that's so it's accessible to other people. So yeah, that's what I'd say, Centrepoint, or bringing it all together, because there's a lot of innovation going on at the moment, which is amazing. But it's like, how do people actually access that? How do they process it? How do they navigate it?
Yeah, 100%. And I think it's interesting that you mentioned, because I think as I guess a young person who works in the creative industry, like you said, it can very much be like you don't find out about opportunities or programs you can get involved in until either you're over the age limit, or if it's something with a business, then you find out that you can only do it for the first year of your business being open. And I think, like you said, it really does sometimes feel like you're missing the mark, and you're almost just how was I supposed to know of these things if no one tells me, or it's not publicly shared that you might need to, if you're applying for this, I don't know, funding competition, you have to be aware that you need to have certain things done, or certain things when you're working on it. Or even if it's just developmental programs, some of them say, you need to be able to be on the program, you have to commit to certain amounts of time, or you can't be on it while you're a student or things like that. But sometimes it's not put in an accessible way, so people put all this time and energy into it, and they won't be able to. They'll find out once they get rejected that was the reason why. But I think, like you said, something like a center point, or something that almost like a hub where all this stuff is. Would be something super useful and is really needed.
And it's happening at the moment. So that's what I'd say, highlighting the good work that's happening at the moment. But I think my main, it's not even a concern, my main, focus is how do you bring it even more together? Because sometimes it can be overwhelming for those that need to use it. So 100%. Maybe links into collaboration. There's many angles to take it.
Yeah, that's a perfect line to that essay. If you do write the essay, I'm looking forward to reading it.
Maybe we'll write a blog.
Yeah, that'll be really good. We're going to go into the first question, which is all about you and your journey. So your journey from being NEET to a leader in youth engagement is really inspiring. And could you just tell us a bit more about that journey and how it's shaped your current work?
So how did I get into youth engagement? Was based on my experience as a young person, which is quite long, but to summarise it down is I did an apprenticeship. And when I did my apprenticeship was an interesting journey because it was originally for a year, but due to different challenges that I was having throughout the apprenticeship, like not being able to get my functional skills maths and being able to study a bit more to pass the actual apprenticeship to progress onto other roles, that's where it kind of started. So it was the apprenticeship. Once I finished my apprenticeship, like after 4 years, during that time I got a lot of experience. So I was helping young people to do like job support, so employment. But then I also started to do like youth voice work, working with ambassadors. And my last role that I had that I really enjoyed on my journey as a young person was I became a National Youth Participation Officer. And that was basically working with young people in different regions. So it was London, Kent and Nottingham. And the whole idea was around a little bit around like youth voice, social action, but then it's like how do you bridge that together and share the learnings? So from a young age, I've been doing a lot of stuff around youth voice, youth engagement, youth participation. And I think that experience or the opportunity to even see that side of the world, it made me feel like this is what I'm passionate about. And then just to kind of summarise it down, because I've worked for different youth charities and organisations, sometimes I've seen or I've felt that some best practice wasn't always happening. So what I've kind of taken away from that and through the work that I've set up through DICE, CIC, is making sure that we have authentic youth engagement, but also best practice and lead by example. And yeah, I'm proud of the work that I do because I'm still a young adult. Sometimes I forget it. But for the young adult that I am and the passions that I have to continue doing that work, it's always been intentional and I've just been able to manifest it more because I've realised I'm very passionate about it and I find it easy to contribute and be in those spaces.
That's really incredible. And I think like it's very clear, even like through that short summary, that like you've always been passionate about community.
Yes.
And I think that's sort of like I think sometimes, especially for anyone watching or listening, they might be feeling like trying to figure out, I guess, where their like not just creative journey, but where their career journey and like life will take them. They might be like, oh, I don't know where this is going to go, or like what my next steps could be. Or even if they are like out of uni, they might be like, oh, I've been working in this industry for a long time. This is what I studied in. But like you said, they might have realized like they're actually passionate about like community engagement or youth work. But I think it's clear from your own story of just like realizing this is something that you were super passionate about, to then go and create this like CIC. And I know you do it with your sister, and like to also, I think even like that, to be able to create stuff with family, I think is always like nice. I guess it's not one of the questions here, but how is that? Tell us more about that experience. How has it been running the DICE CIC with your sister?
We set it up when we was 21 years old. And I think reflecting on the journey now, we didn't know what we were setting up, if that makes sense, especially now that I'm finding out more about like entrepreneurship and social enterprise. We basically just started going into our community and helping other young people based on the support that we had. And I think to answer the question around how is it running a business, social enterprise with family, luckily enough, it works in our favour. I have heard other stories of, how it not always going to plan. But I think with me and my sister, the way that we've set up DICE is based on our strengths. And I don't like to say weaknesses, but things that you might not feel too confident on, we're able to kind of like bring people in or support each other in that way. But she knows this already. I enjoyed doing the business with her. And I think when we first started DICE CIC, there was sometimes people advised us like, are you sure you want to have a business together? But one, it wasn't a business. We was just in the community and it worked well. And two, now that I reflect, DICE wouldn't be what it is if we didn't do this together. Because it is solely based on lived experience, passion, and giving back. With the ideas of where we plan to go, it needs the twin power.
Yeah, that's really incredible. And I think I really love that, like literally like we said, that Dice wouldn't be what it is today without the two of you. And like you said, like I think that's something that like a lot of people forget, is that everyone's got their area of expertise, and you don't have to be an expert in everything. Everyone's got their strengths, and as you said, there's areas that certain people might not feel confident in. But I would say, and like based off what you just said, both you and your sister have got clear examples of like great leadership, because you both say, actually, maybe one of us is like strong in this area, the other's strong in this. So you know what? I'll leave this to you because I know that you've got this. This is what you're great at. And like, you know that I can handle this because this is my expertise and this was really great. And yeah, I do think, like you said, that like a lot of people do have hesitancy, or they say like, oh, working with family and stuff like that, are you sure you want to do it and stuff like that? But yeah, I know from a lot of the people that we've met through podcasts, family, friends, even myself, like all of my siblings do ventures of some sort, and I like help them with that. So there's something just to me that is really nice about like working with your family and like working together to address stuff.
Yeah, and we don't just work together; we also like facilitate together. So there's a good synergy. So yeah.
Yeah, that's perfect. We're going to go on to the next question. And I'm going to start this question off with our mic check, which is a factual figure that's relevant to the conversation that we're having. And this factual figure is from the Office of National Statistics. And it basically says, as of late 2023, over 11% of young people aged 16 to 24 in the UK were classified as NEET. So not in education, employment, or training. And I think this number really highlights the ongoing need for, as we mentioned, accessible support and career development opportunities for these young people. And with this in mind, obviously, DICE, CIC, does amazing work to tackle this. But how do you identify and support the needs of marginalised and NEET youth through your initiatives?
So through the work that we do at DICE, CIC, we have different ways of supporting young individuals, but I would say one of the main ways that we do that is through holistic support and also mentoring. And one of the things that we're very, I'd say, like passionate about and holding on to is that we meet young individuals where they're at. So depending on what pathway you're on, we're able to have a conversation to get that full understanding and then see if it's something that we can support them through our work at DICE, but also based on our approach, always happy to like signpost them or refer them to like recommended services. But I think what's important, and maybe like I said, me being someone that was identified NEET at the time, and I didn't understand what it even meant, but now I do understand. I think what's important for them is giving them that space to like communicate what's going on for them and then explore their options. Sometimes there's services, and I won't name them, but sometimes there's services that they have to go to that are mandatory, and the experience that they get in there is not positive because it's very much like tick box. So I think, just going back to that space of validating how they're feeling, bearing in mind if they're NEET, it means they're not in education, employment or training. So that means that then they're not doing anything active. It's about exploring those other barriers for the reason why they're not in the work, and also recognising them. Once that's been done, then seeing what support can be done. And just going back to my other point I'm very passionate about, the young person that they might be engaging with, they might not be able to support them. So it's important that organisation or service feels confident enough to signpost them and not keep them within the service, which happens quite a lot.
No, definitely. I think it's really great to see because, as you said, literally as you ended there, like two things that I'd like to highlight is one, as you said, the importance of like, I wouldn't even say like mental, but like good people that like actually like care about the individual rather than, like you said, it being like a tick box or like just trying to fill a quota type thing. Because I know it's the same with me, like having people that actually like look, especially when it comes to like education, but to be fair, any industry, people that actually like want the best for you as an individual, and they're just like, oh, I know that like let's have a chat, let's have an open dialogue and like talk about what's going on in your life and stuff like that. Because I think a lot of people say it when that work in that do youth work talk about it, and I'm sure you may relate too. The idea of like sometimes young people just want like they just need someone to talk to about what's going on. They don't need you to tell them do X, do Y, or like this is what like they just want a space to have a dialogue about what's going on in their life and speak. But I think, as you said there as well, like the second thing of like organizations like not feeling like they can't recommend or like allow people to like go and work with like different organizations, I think is really important. I think, as you mentioned there, it's like, you know, if everyone essentially wants every young person to do well, then organizations shouldn't feel like it's a quota or like we need to keep people in our service to prove it, like we've, you know, supported like X many young people over this year. It should be like, well, actually, you know, we care about these young people growing, and if we can't offer them the resources or the facilities or whatever they need to like get to that space, we should be able to say, actually, you know what, we can't support you, but we've got this great organization that actually could offer you what you're looking for. Which, yeah, I think, like you said, more organizations need to be able to sort of like get to that realization of doing.
There we go. Yeah, and that's what we do well at DICE.
Perfect. We're going to go on to our next question, which is looking at sort of like your mission at DICE. And, you know, mental health and career progression are clearly central to the work that you guys do. What are some practical tools or advice you would share for young people who are trying to find their path?
So I'm mindful, like, we're living in a busy world at this moment of time. Advice that I would give to a young person that's trying to navigate their pathway is, I'd say, always remember yourself on the journey. Because we live in a busy world, there's a lot of expectations, there's a lot of things to keep up with. Is always remember yourself on the journey, because if you remember yourself on the journey, then you're able to put yourself first in those steps that you're making. And I say steps that you're making because they might not always be goals. They might be progressions, or they might be exploring what's to come next. But I say, yeah, always put yourself first and reach out. Reach out. I say to a lot of the young people that I work with, I say, stay on my radar. Like, just be, do you know what I mean? Be it's not about being available, but be present. Be open to want to get involved in stuff. And the reason why I say reach out is because, as I said, we live in a busy world. But if you reach out and you're on someone's radar, for myself, I see a lot of opportunities all the time. And I just forward them on. I don't need anything back, but as long as I remember you, or if I can remember you, then you've got another person by your side, on your corner, that's kind of, keeping a lookout for your next steps, your next motivations, goals, all that good stuff.
Yeah, and I think literally, like we said, like it's one of those things where, like people say, like out of sight, out of mind, but literally you can only, like you said, like you might find opportunities or like, whether it's career, jobs, training opportunities, development stuff that like might be perfect for someone. And I guess like we were saying about like having a center point for like information, someone literally might come across and be like, and I know especially for like people that I work with that do like, for example, like I have an intern that interned with us last year. He does a lot of videography work. And I tell him like, you know, just let me know what your availability is like, because I always want to like put work his way outside of like the stuff he does to pick up the mic. But yeah, literally, like I was just like, look, just let me know if you're available, if you're free. I don't want to give you stuff if you're not available. And through like keeping in touch, he's been able to like build up his repertoire and his portfolio, and he's growing more confident. But literally, as you said, like if he basically like went AWOL and like didn't talk to me and like I didn't hear from him for ages, I would just forget. And like you said, we live in a busy world. It's not necessarily because you might not necessarily want to like talk to people, or you might forget them on you might forget them. It's just sometimes because you're just busy, and like sometimes life happens, things happen. But yeah, I think like you said, and I think even to like add on to what you said about reach out, I think sometimes people, I guess kind of funnily, like similar to this, like this recording of like reach out to people and like contact people that maybe you would like to, you know, either to work with or to mentor or stuff like that. Because even like, I guess like with this podcast episode, I reached out to you. I told you a bit more about what we do. We spoke. But this podcast episode wouldn't have happened if I didn't feel that I could reach out to you and just like send you a message about it. And I think it's sometimes that it's like you said, like just not even overthinking reaching out, because I feel like sometimes you can feel that, oh, you know, if you're reaching out to someone, it's, especially if they're maybe like head of organization, or maybe they're like in an organization you want to work at, but they have a more senior role. People sometimes feel like, oh, like the idea of doing that is like that person won't be interested in me. Like, I'm just like one of 1,000 messages that they receive. But I think sometimes people will be surprised that like these people will be like, oh, actually, I love your story, or like, oh, I looked into you and like saw your page. Like, I'd love to like connect with you and maybe mentor you, or like have a coffee with you one morning. Let's just chat and then let's see where it goes. And I think a lot of people think that, especially if you're young and you're early in your career, you can't do that to more senior people. But yeah, I know through like different organizations or like people that I know that have done that, they've been like, yeah, no, like people high up in companies have just been like, yeah, we love, like they saw me, I told them a bit more about my work, and now they're like mentors, or they share, literally as you said, like they share opportunities with me. And it's only through like being available, like reaching out to them, asking them for advice, talking to them about like what's going on in my life, and whether it's like career, personal, or whatever. But yeah, I feel like it's as you like to summarize all of that, like mentoring is so important, essentially. Yeah.
And one thing I would say is, I guess is going back to the advice, but this is a mindset thing for myself. Where I kind of say, when it comes to asking questions or reaching out, the worst that someone's going to say to you is no. And yeah, I smile when I say it, because that shouldn't upset you. Yeah. Is that not an answer?
Yeah.
So then you can go and ask someone else. Yeah. So yeah, it's just a bit of a mindset thing. I'd say like get into the habit of just asking questions, and don't let no be a negative factor to it. No, 100%. Not everyone's got that mindset, but it's a tip.
No, it's so true. And like sometimes it's just like being okay with like you said, like you might get a no and it might just not be for you then and there. But yeah, you never know like where things can go. And like linking to what you said, my dad's got this quote that he usually says that like it's all around the idea of the people you meet on your way up, you'll also meet on your way down. And this whole idea of that like you should never, like you said, like if someone gives you a no, just like gracefully be like, okay, thank you. Like you don't even if they say no, you don't want to reply. Like just leave it there and then. But rather than like feeling like you have to like, I don't know, get rude or be like, oh, how dare you, and stuff like that. Because you're just like, you never know where you could meet this person again. And if you meet them, you know, like my dad says it all the time, like job stuff, because he was just like, okay, you could get rejected from a job and then you could, I don't know, work somewhere else, you do amazing work, and then this company reaches out to you and says, okay, we want to hire you for a job that's more senior to the one that you applied for. You know, if it's like being a business founder, you could apply for funding or reach out to an organization to maybe collaborate. They might say no. Then guess what? A better organization that could offer you like the stuff that you're looking for could then be like, oh, you know, we actually saw the work that you did, or like we came to your event, we had an amazing time, like let's collaborate, let's work together. So yeah, for me it's also that, it's like you said, like never letting no as an answer. It might not be the answer you were looking for, but it's better than just like you said, like being okay with a no and just letting that opportunity pass. And if it comes back again, great. If not, just being open to the fact that like another opportunity could come from it as well. Yeah. But yeah, we're going to go on to the last question before we go to passing the mic, where you get to ask me as many questions as you'd like. But how can schools... It's really important to us to pick up the mic, and we love to share resources that can support your mental health. And that's why we are so glad to have today's sponsor. Thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring this video. BetterHelp is the world's largest therapy service, and it's 100% online. With BetterHelp, you can tap into a network of over 30,000 licensed and experienced therapists who can help you with a wide range of issues. To get you started, you just answer a few questions about your needs and preferences in therapy. That way, BetterHelp can match you with the right therapist from their network. Then you can talk to your therapist however you feel comfortable, whether it's via text, chat, phone, or video call. You can message your therapist at any time and schedule live appointments when it's convenient for you. If your therapist isn't right for any reason, you can switch to a new therapist at no additional charge. With BetterHelp, you get the same professionalism and quality you expect from in-office therapy, but with a therapist who is custom-picked for you, more scheduling flexibility, and at an affordable price. Get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/pickupthemic. I've also linked them down below in the description. So again, that's betterhelp.com/pickupthemic, MIC, and start your journey today. How can schools, universities, and youth organizations better support young people through transitions and help create more youth-led opportunities?
I guess this is coming from my point of view because I'm all about the young people as we are. But it makes me think about, which is happening already, but continue it and make sure that it's best practice and lead by example. So it makes me think about like youth voice, co-production, like getting them involved in the work that's happening or the work that's to come. And I think services, youth organisations, youth clubs can help young people with their transitions and their next steps by coming together a bit more. And when I say coming together a bit more, we hear a lot about collaborations and partnerships, but it would be nice for someone to be able to lead by example with actually collaborating together and it being meaningful, because there's loads of young people going to different services and organisations, but if they were actually able to collaborate and involved, maybe it might be an event, but going back to the youth voice stuff, like I said, checking in with them to see like, what do you guys need for your transitions and your next steps? That work's already been done in the past probably, but as we know, time's always changing. So I think there's something around like it being like a big piece of work, because there's loads of different works happening in different communities, but how do you do it on a bigger scale? So that's my first thing, like coming together and not changing the game a little bit, but like doing something different, activating something new. You know, COVID-19 was how many years ago? Like, what can you put in that space? And I think maybe just coming from a community point of view, I feel like there could be more like advocation, leadership, representation. So there's something around, I think of ambassadors, but I don't know how it could be incorporated in that way around transition. But say, for example, there's a young adult that has gone into somewhere positive. Them coming back into those spaces, they're from the local community and championing and sharing their story. And I think with that approach, that just links back into like giving hope, mindset, motivation. But then with the organisations, youth clubs, and like youth spaces, just activating something different, trying their luck, because
Definitely. I think before we go to the second part of this question, I think as you mentioned, like, it's one of those ones where, like, it feels almost like people, like, I guess, swipe. They sort of, like, take a step back, and like you said, like, when it comes to having that open dialogue, it's like, oh, like, we don't need to check in and see with young people, like, what they actually need. Or it's like, oh, you know, like you said, like sometimes they're using data that's outdated. So they're like, oh yeah, you know, this report was done and it focused on X, Y, and Z. And it's just like, that's great. That's the report from then. But it's like, this is maybe like you said, like if anyone was talking about like employment opportunities during COVID, even like once restrictions like ended or like was a bit more chill, comparing it to now, like that's a completely different like field. There's different things in the world that have happened. There's affected different opportunities, and it's like you said, like always just like checking in and like gauging like what do young people like actually need, because I know. Growing up, like there was this, like when I was at uni, like there was this whole push of like, oh, if you're at uni, you need to like do an undergraduate market. Everyone needs to have a master's if you want to get a job. So everyone was like doing masters. Now there are like people that I know, or even like when I was at uni, we would do like workshops with like young children, and like people that I worked with, some of them like as soon as they graduated, they weren't, because of like the way things were after COVID, they couldn't find like employment in their industry. So they were like doing retail or like working in like supermarkets and stuff like that. And then like the person who managed that team was just like, it's really interesting because you've got like someone who's like, I don't know, graduated with a first, maybe highest in their class in like engineering, but then they can't find a job in engineering. So why aren't we like...
You made a good point.
Yeah.
Do you know what's quite interesting? And obviously I know this is a podcast recording, but something I've reflected on my journey is all the work that I've done. When I was at college, I did health and social care level 3. That was good. But college was very different because it felt like being in a big... what do you call it? A fishbowl. And they say that, but when I was at college, it felt like it because the transition from school to college there was more independency. You have to go to those lessons. If you walk around, no one's not going to pull you back in. So it was very interesting, like the transition from going to school to college to then doing an apprenticeship. But I remember when I was at college, finishing the last year, a lot of people were like applying to go to university, and there was different age dynamics. But I remember looking at my sister and I'm like, why haven't we got an application getting ready to go to university? But it's because we didn't want to go to university, and because I didn't know I wanted to study. I just did my health and social care. That was enough. Do you know what I mean? And going back to my point, all I was trying to say is I remember seeing everyone apply, and I was thinking to myself, like, do I need to apply? Like, am I missing out? But not luckily enough, I didn't apply. And sorry, you might have to cut some of this stuff out, okay, because people go to uni. All I'm trying to say is my career journey when I was at college, so we can keep this bit, yeah? My career journey when I was at college, I went to school. When I left school, went to college, did health and social care. But I remember when I was in college, a lot of people were applying to go to university. And I looked at my sister and I was like, should we be doing this? But I had my tutor and she was able to help me to break it down, like, if I don't know what I want to do next, it's okay not to go to university. If I know what I want to do next, get applying. But because I didn't know what I wanted to do next, that reduced the pressure of actually filling out an application that I didn't need to do. And then I was able to explore other pathways, alternative pathways. So I did the apprenticeship. And when I look at it now, based on where I am now in my journey, a lot of my development is based on experience. So even when I look at my CV, I'm like, no, you don't have much like education on there. But all I'm trying to like articulate and say is that sometimes it's not all, you don't compare the journey basically. Don't compare the CVs, don't compare the paper forms, because I didn't go to uni, I did an apprenticeship. I just about got my functional skills maths, but the journey that I've been on and the amount of experience that I have still validates me to be at the table.
100%. And I think it's like you said, like sometimes, like I think that's one thing that I liked about my the team supervisor, manager, that like group of like STEM students, is like she was just like, look, like not everyone's gonna want to go to uni, and like even though within her role it was essentially encouraged to like tell these students like go to uni, go to
it's a good thing if it makes sense.
She was just like, no, like if people said like they didn't want to go to uni, she was just like, let's tell them about like apprenticeships, other routes, because literally as you said, like not everyone will need to go to university. I know she was saying that a family friend, he wanted to be like a handyman, so he literally wanted to go into like carpentry. But she was just like, why does he need to like go to university, study like for 3 years about like whether it's design or like another course, when he could literally just like do an apprenticeship for carpentry and then maybe like just get straight into the working world. And she was just like, yeah, I completely agree. This is what makes sense. Like students and young people shouldn't be pushed. And I think especially now, because a lot of graduates are not necessarily finding their ideal employment, it's changing, and like I know apprenticeships are sort of like becoming there's a lot more apprenticeships there, I would say, now than when I was going to uni. But I think it's like we said, like it's this understanding of like, hey, not everyone needs to go to university. Not everyone is like university would be beneficial to them, and arguably even making the commitment to go to university, even arguably if it's just doing the application, is a huge commitment in itself. So it's one of those things where young people should be given sort of like understanding all the options available, and not necessarily told like, oh, you're very academic, so you have to go to uni, but almost like these are the options, but figure out, like, if you need help, we can help you figure out, but what do you think would be best for you? That you know that like, whether it's like 3 years after you've done your uni, you're about to graduate, or you've done your apprenticeship, that you will feel that once you've left, you're like, this was actually super beneficial, this was really helpful, this was great. Rather than like, if you didn't want to go to university and you then graduated, you were like, I spent 3 years of my life doing a degree that I don't like, I don't want to be in this industry, I don't think it's beneficial. And then you're now like, okay, I'm going to have to retrain and go into like something else. So I definitely agree.
You also made me think of something else. So the question that you said around like what schools and like organisations could do to support the transition, it made me think because... I didn't leave school that long ago, Leo. But yeah, it made me think, when you're in year 11 and thinking about next steps, a lot of the conversations are around like colleges, or also like sixth forms. But maybe that's something that they could do is like, and I say narrow down, but maybe highlight, like, this is what we're focusing on, is what are your next steps. And like I said, like, events and being, what was the word that I used? I can't remember the word that I used, but I think there's just something around where they could focus a lot more around their career transitions. And then maybe they might take out some of the stuff that they do around, you know, like they go in the open days. Those are useful, but can they go to an open day at like a college, a sixth form and a university? So yeah, I don't know, changing the game a bit.
I definitely agree. And I think you kind of touched on it, but it was also, the second part was like on creating more youth-led opportunities. But I think it's like we said, like, you just got to change up the game.
Yeah, and that's because I'm an innovator. So in my head, it feels exciting. It's like, yeah, what can you do? But also, like, there is things in place for a reason. So you've got the Gatsby benchmark. And I think with that, that's quite interesting, because if young people, young individuals, even those that go to universities, even it links into the career sector. But my point is that if they understood the Gatsby's benchmark, when I looked at that, I said, you could show that to a young person, because then they can understand what the journey that they're going on when they're at school, or even when they're at college, to think about their progression, basically. Because the teachers or those that are teaching, they have a framework that they're working towards. But the young people don't see that. So sometimes when you're saying to them, oh, go to an insight day, it's why are we going to an insight day? But there's a whole model that they're working towards, and they haven't seen it.
No, 100%. I think it's like we said, that open transparency with like young people, and having those conversations, that's what's going to really drive like encouraging young people to have these conversations and feel confident in them. We're now going to go on to passing the mic. So this is your opportunity, Aaliyah, to ask me any question that you'd like relevant to the conversation.
Okay. I remember the question I asked you last time, and I think you said someone asked that to you, which was, why did you how come you set up? Yeah. My question would be, I have two questions. I'm going to still answer because I'm interested. Okay. So my question to you is, with the platform that you've created, I understand it's for like people that have gone to uni, listeners and stuff like that. But what made you create this platform specifically, rather than it just being like a normal podcast?
Yeah, no, definitely. So for me, the whole idea of Pick Up Mic came from, I went to be, so it's 2020 in October, and I was going to be I was campaigning to be the BME officer at my student union. And I couldn't go in person and like give people stuff or like campaign at my campus because of COVID. So it was all like online and messaging people. And a lot of my stuff was focused on like working with like Black-led organizations to offer like placement work for students. It was like sharing, like a focus on sharing university resources that students and graduates didn't know about, and having an emphasis on like, how can we promote it? So like a big example I talk about is Brunel has a funding, well, to be fair, most universities, I know Brunel specifically has like a funding competition where they offer students, like, I think there's a pot of £15,000, and they divide that up between like, it can range from 3 to maybe 6 entrepreneurs, to basically fund their business idea. And essentially the thing about that is it's quite nice, because you don't have to have like a full-fledged idea. You don't need to have like this complicated business plan. Like, yes, you will be asked that, but they do all these workshops with you to help you like learn about it. A lot of the students I was talking to, they were just like, I didn't know this existed. They were just like, for example, like Brunel offered like free mental health support. They would help students who felt that they might have like a learning difficulty. They would help students like to essentially get tested for free. I was just like, there's a lot of these resources that I didn't even know about when I started. And like, I only found out like once I graduated, or like through friends. Some of it I found out through like literally just like seeing posters or like going to events and stuff. And I was like, there's so many students that would find this stuff beneficial. Like even the Brunel funding thing, like one of the workshop facilitators was talking about why he likes that competition, and from like applying and doing it, I agree with him. He's like, it's probably the nicest funding competition you'll ever do, because they're super nice. They get like the judges. Some of the judges are made up of people that you'll do like one-to-one workshops with. So he was just like, to me personally, this is like the nicest you'll ever have to do to like pitch for money, and this is like a good starting point if you want to like go into more pitching. Long story short, I didn't get elected. But I felt like I just felt like to leave the conversation where it was wouldn't make sense. So yeah, I continued. So we then originally were going to do a Zoom series, but then we were tired of Zoom because everything was on Zoom. So we were just like, let's go into podcasting. And then yeah, this podcast was the first one that we did. So we didn't have a name for it. We just called it Pick Up the Mic, and it was just one podcast. And then as we sort of like grew, we added new elements, we added new podcasts, which is now why we're like a creative platform, because we like do other things like we've got workshops that we do mentoring, we do we kind of do coaching, to be fair, but we do like loads of different things. And I think for me it's just nice because I say that like, I joke about it, but it's almost been true. Like every year has been like a new things happen to Pick Up the Mic. So whether it's like last year was when we sort of like were really pushing like our services and like saying that, you know, if you need workshop facilitation, media services, we can do that. 2023 was when we sort of launched being a podcast network, so saying like all this additional stuff we were doing rather than being singular podcasts was one podcast. But yeah, I'd say that's basically the journey.
It's cool. And then I had another question. You can cut this bit out because I have a habit of when I listen to people, I forget what I was going to say. What was it? There we go. So I have another question. It might sound a bit random, but we're gonna start all over again because I've got two questions. My first question to you is, what did you go to uni to study? I
did environmental science for my undergraduate and then sustainability, entrepreneurship and design for my master's.
Okay, how was that journey?
Yeah, it was good. So I did a placement year for both. So I was at Brunel for like 6 years, which was one of those ones where like it didn't feel that long until like I left. Like I was in my placement year for my master's, I was working at the university. So as soon as I finished the studying part and it was literally just coming up to graduation, I was getting paid to work at my uni. But it was only when I like left that job, I was just like, yeah, I've been here for like almost 7 years, and I was just like, it doesn't feel like time has flown that long or like that far. Yeah, my undergrad I enjoyed. It was fun. It was good. COVID came in the final year of my undergrad, so so we were already in lockdown when I went into my final year. And then, yeah, doing like my master's predominantly like online or like with loads of COVID restrictions was different. But for me, it didn't necessarily impact my university experience because I had at least 3 years of like things being essentially okay. But yeah, no, it was good. I enjoyed it. It was fun. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm just interested. I'm just interested. Think about like, you know, career journeys and pathways and stuff like that. And then my last question would be, if you wasn't doing the job that you do now, if you call it a job, what would you be doing?
That's a good question. Also not one that I've never been asked before. Actually, I think all three of these I've not been asked before. I don't know, you know, like sometimes I do think about that because sometimes I'm like, I love doing the podcasting, I love meeting new people, but then sometimes I'm just like, yeah, if I wasn't doing this, like what would I be doing like on a Friday afternoon right now? Like would I be catching up with friends? Would it be another venture, like something like, so I would say probably, if I wasn't doing, this is a good question. If I wasn't doing Pick Up the Mic, so the cop-out answer is I have another thing that I do. So it's a creative platform that focuses specifically on promoting sustainable fashion and sustainable living. So that was the first, like, if we were talking about entrepreneurship, that was my first, like, toe into that space. But then Pick Up the Mic came and then I was just like, cool, I need to focus more on Pick Up the Mic. I want to get it to sort of where it can just run itself and then I'm going back to it. But yeah, that would be my like cop-out answer, to be like, I would probably be working on that. But if I wasn't doing anything entrepreneurship-wise, I think I probably would go more into like doing creative stuff. So like outside of Pick Up the Mic, I do photography and videography. I used to, like when I was young, I used to like make I would basically like put music to like whether it's like TV shows or films or like cool like fight scenes.
DJing.
Yeah.
I love that.
So yeah, I was just like, oh yeah, like this is kind of like fun. Like this is like nice. So I would probably like still be doing that, to be fair. Yeah. And it was just like random stuff like that. Like I think I'd probably I do, and that's one of the things I definitely want to do more, is like have creative practices that I don't necessarily, I'm trying to monetize. It's just like stuff I want to do for fun. But yeah, I'll probably be doing more of that, to be fair, just like having like creative practices where I'm just like, yeah, I'm just like, if I do photography, it might just be like, yeah, I'm just going to go like around London, take photos. Probably I've spoken funny enough in the previous episode about like poetry as well. So I used to do quite a bit of poetry during COVID. So probably like do more of that and then maybe eventually perform it at some point. But yeah, stuff like that would probably be what I'd be doing.
That's very interesting, because I got asked that question before and I was like, it really got me thinking, and then it showed me another side of what I could be doing, but maybe I can manifest them into creative practices.
Exactly.
Yeah.
100%. We're going to go on to the next segment, which is... sorry, my laptop is frozen. The next segment, which is... I'm also like... It's towards the end of the day, so my mental battery is just slowly draining. But I can do it. The rest of the episode. We come to the MC of the month. Organisation, individual, relevance of a conversation that we're having. The organisation we'd like to spotlight. So outside of DICE, CIC, and the incredible work that you're doing, we'd also like to spotlight The Mix. They are a UK-based charity that offers essential support services for young people aged 11 to 25. And they do this through different ways. They have mental health advocacy, so they offer free confidential support through counselling, peer-to-peer forums, and crisis support. They offer career and skills, life skills support, so they do career guidance, life advice, practical tools to help young people succeed as they transition into adulthood. And then finally, they do, so similar to the incredible work that, as you mentioned, Aaliyah, with like lived experience and integrating that, they place a huge value on that. So using peer voices in their content and services to make it more relatable, but also more impactful. So yeah, they are our MC of the month.
Shout out to The Mix. Yeah. Just an Old Street. We're going to say that Old Street. Very local.
And before we wrap up, we have the takeaway section, which is where our guest speakers leave a message for you to take home with. Aaliyah, it's been great speaking to you. We've spoken about a lot. But if you had to summarise one message that our audience at home should go home with, what would it be?
I have many quotes in my head. I've also got many tattoos on my skin that are quotes. But one I'm going to give is keep going, keep growing. And it's a mindset thing when I say that, with a little bit of yellow and sunlight. But just keep going, keep growing. Whatever that pathway is, hopefully it's a positive pathway, then do so. If you're not on such a positive pathway, then keep navigating. Yeah.
100%. Yeah. I'm going to wrap it up there. Couldn't have said it better myself. Aaliyah, it's been incredible speaking to you. Thank you very much for sharing the work that you're doing, but also DICE CIC is doing.
Yeah.
How can people connect with you? How could people know a bit more about the work that you're doing? And finally, if there's any events, opportunities, anything you want to shout out about, this is your time to do so.
Okay, so with DICE CIC, we have a website. It's www.dicecic.org. We have an Instagram, which is @DiptingCreativityEngagement. And depending on when this is coming out, we actually have a rebrand launch event. So that's on Saturday, the 5th of July in Hackney Wick. And then we will be having some programs starting in August. So if there's any young individuals that are aged between... We work with 16 to 30s, but this program's for 18 plus. So if there's anyone over 18 that might want to get involved in any programs, or if you're just looking for support, I'd say reach out to us. And I feel like I said, what we do at DICE is being able to see if it's something that we can support you with. If not, we're 100% happy to signpost you or recommend you to other services. But yeah, that's it really. It's our main event coming up. And then follow us on Instagram because we're coming back. We're about to get busy, so stay posted.
Perfect. Cool. Thank you very much. And thank you to you, our audience at home, for watching this episode. If you liked it, a like, comment, subscribe, always appreciated. If you're listening on Spotify or any other listening platform, we love 5 stars, so give them 5 stars. We truly appreciate. If you want to support if you want to make sure you don't miss any of our episodes on YouTube, on either the student guide or any of our other Pick Up the Mic content, please click the notification bell at the bottom of the video. If you would like to if you'd like to support our efforts and our works, please check out our Patreon or YouTube channel membership. You don't have to subscribe to both, but you can click those down below and it can help us to continue this incredible work. And then finally, if you want to see some merch, please do check out our just let us know. You can DM us or email us at info@pickupthemic.co.uk, and you can receive some cool merch. We've got t-shirts and a nice notepad that can help you to remember to pick up the mic yourselves, even when you're not listening to or watching our content. And then very finally, if you want to make sure you keep up to date on all our other content, head to the For You page and you can find our 3 other YouTube channels there as well. We're going to wrap up the episode there. Thank you, Aaliyah. It's been amazing speaking to you. And if content calendar willing, this will be the episode 9. So next episode will be the final episode of the Student Guide, season 7, which, is wild to think, but yes, we have reached the end of season 7, or we're reaching the end of season 7. So keep an eye out for that. We have cool stuff to talk about in the next episode. So that's bye from us here, and have a wonderful day.